go ahead and get started this morning with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll go ahead and ask for approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for today.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'll start off asking Keith to go ahead and start with a presentation on the animal feeding operation being proposed today. You're fine
You're
there.
fine there.
All right, this project will be 5,000 head finisher. As far as the matrix goes, we are taking an additional 85 points for the distance to closest residence, which is 3,045 feet, which gives an additional separation of 1,170 feet. No public use area within 4,001 feet. There's no educational, religious, or commercial enterprise within 3,376 feet. Closest water source is Beaver Creek, which lies 4,575 feet to the northeast. That's an additional 4,075 feet. No critical public use area. It's a major water source. No major water source within 3,501 feet. 2 times separation distance to high quality water. 12 covered storage. 17 form manure storage. 19 truck turnaround. Facility size is 2,000 animal units. And we're using wet dry feeders. They're stainless steel. Injector incorporate manure on the same date. Take an additional separation distance for manure application of 200 feet to public use area. Additional separation to commercial business, religious institution or church. Or educational is 200 feet, an extra 5 points. High quality water, additional 400 feet, 10 points. Worker safety submission plan, 10 points. Closure plan, 5 points, which gives us a total of 455 points for the project.
Okay. Is the owner of the site here? No? Oh, okay. No problem. All right. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing and ask that the list of speakers be started. When it's your turn, please come to the podium and state your name and where you're from, and we'll go ahead and get started.
The first person, Keith?
That's right.
Okay, I'm sorry. You can, if you want to go up and stand up there, or you're right under the microphone.
Yeah. Why don't you come on up?
I really don't have anything that maybe I just.
Yeah, come on up.
We have a farm right close to it, and I was wondering basically where the manure would go from this site you want to put up.
It will go. So one field is in the northeast quarter, section 13 Ellis. There's a parcel in section 8, 24 and 26 of Jackson. 4 fields.
2 of them will be by York.
Ma'am, hold on just one second.
Where'd you say that was? I'm not familiar with the numbers you've got there. Can you tell me where the land is or who owns the land?
It's JT Corporation owns the land. There's 1 northeast of Wawassa, 2 southeast of Wawassa, and then what's your 4th one is?
So that's Eldridge Farm, so it's actually around the site.
It's next to your property there, Keith. The JT Farms, where the farm will be.
For that many hogs, how many acres do you need for that?
So there's about 300 acres in it altogether.
Okay, that'd be adequate then,
Yes.
just the way you're figuring it out. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Looks like next we have Julie. Oh, Julie Dunn.
Good morning, Julie.
Morning. I'm Julie Dunn, citizen of Hardin County. May I assume that you will be doing perhaps a combination of rendering, composting to take care of dead hogs?
Rendering, I think,
The main one.
is yes.
Okay. I'm not asking you directly, but how many dead piglets and hogs does Hardin County deal with annually? How are they disposed of throughout the county? And what did they die of? I have an article from National Hog Farmer dated February 28th of this year. They're now inoculating pigs. Engelvac Provenza, it's a bivalent H1N1 and H3N2 vaccine that offers a new level of cross protection against influenza A virus strains. And it includes H1N2 and more recently H3N24. I have an article from the Cedar Rapids Gazette dated 3/9/18. This season's Iowa flu deaths total more than double last year. The prominent virus is H3N2, an A strain, according to state public health officials. While the A strain is declining, the rates of a milder B strain are increasing in recent weeks. A word of caution to Iowans, the state bucked a national trend at the end of the month when flu activity increased in the state while the rest of the country dropped. Another National Hog Farmer article, this is dated March 9. What do you know about influenza? In 1998, with the emergence of H3N2, the whole story changes, is where we are today. We have multiple isolates circulating in the field, is year-round with seasonal influence. Influenza is an RNA disease and can mutate. Different strains, isolates, and pathogens coupled with human seasonal N3s that come in and out of the population along with avian population in dense swine areas make it a challenging disease for pig farmers. Farms need to decide what is out there on all levels. Routine monitoring shows the sow farm is a reservoir of influenza and disseminators of the isolate downstream for farms across the United States. Pittman says it is important to understand the sow herd is a reservoir and the weaned pig is a vector of disease. Vectors carry infective pathogens such as viruses, bacteria, etc., which can be transferred from one host to another. That's all. I do have the references.
Do you want to submit those with the?
Thank you.
Yeah, you'll
I
give them
will,
Justin, or-
Get copies to
Okay.
her. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, next we have Donna Juber.
It's okay. It'll get caught down. It'll.
Okay.
Yep, it'll be all right.
Okay, I'm Donna Juber. I'm a citizen of Hardin County. A technical report for the Pew Commission discussed various CAFO studies and found that industrialization of animal agriculture leads to the reduced enjoyment of property and the deterioration of the surrounding landscape, which are reflected in declining home values and lowering of property tax assessments. Recurrent strong odors, the degradation of water bodies, and increased populations of flies are among the problems caused by CAFOs that make it intolerable for neighbors and their guests to participate in normal outdoor recreational activities or normal social activities in and around their home. A direct quote from the Pew Commission on industrial farm animal production. In Iowa, one study by William Weedham, the CAFO Implications for Rural Economies in the U.S., found that proximity to a hog CAFO decreased neighboring property values in the following order: 40% within a half a mile, 30% within a mile, 20% within a mile and a half, and 10% within 2 miles. Should the homeowners in the half-mile and 1-mile surrounding area decide to demand a tax reduction because of this new confinement, it would mean a tax loss of almost $2,700 to the county. Should the entire town of Owasso decide as a group to demand a tax cut of 20%, this would further increase the loss of property taxes by more than 100%, completely negating the tax gain the confinement site would offer. And this isn't even including the over $500,000 property value of a business named IASE Co-op on the east side of town, since I don't know if they actually have an office. In addition to the loss of property values, there has been another impact on this county. People are moving out, many because of the smell. When people leave, their children go with them. Fewer children in our schools means less funding to our schools. Less funding results in a lower quality in our schools. Industries and manufacturing will not move into our area if there are not enough people to hire. People in management positions will not move here if the air is clogged with the smell of confinement buildings. As people move out and no one moves in, there will be no one to spend money in our county. What businesses that are here will fail, further lowering the quality of our county. In the latter part of 2017, DNR was given a list of 48 items they could legally put in force to protect our air and water from contamination. They chose to give the entire thing a blanket no. 2 weeks later, they held a clean water seminar at the Eldora Library in which they blamed cattle farmers who pasture their cattle and row crop farmers for 86% of the water pollution in this area. They also gave this report to the EPA, who is responsible for placing restrictions on what farmers can do. This report also placed more blame on deer, raccoon, and possum for the pollution than was given to these confinements. The Department of Natural Resources refused to put into place resolutions that would help protect our natural resources, yet they appear to fully support and protect the confinements that produce the manure that is helping to pollute our environment. When a rapist is caught in the act,
I'm going to ask you just to wrap it up, okay, Donna?
I will.
All right, thank you.
No one asks that person why are they doing it or what they mean by the act. That's what these large numbers of confinements are doing in our county, violating our air, our water, and our homes. And if you don't believe that, go for a swim in Pine Lake or have a picnic a short distance downwind of one of these confinements.
Thank you.
All right, Bob Duper.
I was going to finish for her.
Thank you for allowing me to finish.
You're welcome, Donna.
All right, and then Kurt Groen.
You know what, Kurt, I'll just bring the mic back to you instead of trying to, you sure? Okay. You don't need to hold it, they'll pick it up, okay, Kurt? Okay.
My name's Kurt Braun. I'm a Hardin County resident. I was born here, born on a farm. I took a stint away from Hardin County, but I've moved back now. First of all, from 1959 to 2009, pork production in the state has almost doubled. The land needed to do this has gone down 78%, and water needs have gone down 41% on animal production, even though it's almost doubled. There's also a 35% lower carbon footprint because of how we raise animals nowadays. 25% of Iowa cropland is fertilized by manure. Dr. Dan Anderson, Assistant Professor in Agriculture and Biosystem Engineer for ISU, says that manure application improves the physical soil properties because of organic matter being placed back into the soil, thus reducing the runoff and erosion over commercial fertilizers. Jimmy Chin of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, did a study in Wisconsin that nutrient runoff was a major contributor to green water, or algae bloom, in 2 lakes up there that they studied. Part of the solution to reduce the runoff in farm use of mainly manure instead of chemical fertilizers could significantly decrease the phosphorus in surface waters. Water quality and farming data from 4 states, Chin estimates, that a 1% increase in farm acres using manure instead of chemical fertilizer lead to a 0.019 milligrams per liter decrease in total phosphorus levels. ISU recommendations for reducing nutrient loss from farmland include using manure, 40% reduction of phosphorus loss if there's a runoff event shortly after application as opposed to chemical fertilizer. Swine manure also reduces nitrogen loss by 4% over commercial fertilizers. Livestock manure consists of organic matter which improves soil characteristics, including increased water infiltration rates and water holding capacity that helps reduce runoff in the fields. Pine Lake's problems began in 1948 with the introduction of chemical fertilizer. We went from producing explosives for the war to having a need for these chemicals, and it went to chemical fertilizers. Our soils are becoming worn out because of the application of commercial fertilizers. There's not the life in the soil that there used to be due to that. and the application of manure returns life to our soils. Not only does it return organic matter to the soil, thus improving not only nutrient retention, but also the ability to retain water over highly soluble chemicals. It also returns necessary living bacteria to the soil. Farmers using manure must have a specific nutrient plan for the field in which they're applying for it. No such requirements is required by use of chemical fertilizers.
I'm gonna have you wrap up.
Yep, I'm just about done.
Thank you.
Manure knifed in places nutrients where they're needed, protects them from heavy runoff events, and helps build the soil back to where it was. It's not all bad for these CAFOs, even though it's not the best, but we supply a lot of the world with a lot of pork, Mexico being one of our biggest customers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt.
Is it okay that Bob
Yeah.
signed up after? Okay, I figured I just wanted to.
Absolutely. Yep, nope. And I want to acknowledge I got your email this morning.
Okay.
Thank you.
I left my notes at home. Could you tell me what the P-index rating is on this?
0.7, 0.94, 1.06, and 0.45.
Okay, those are very low P-index values, and I knew they were. Pine Lake's impaired because we have excess phosphorus runoff from agriculture fields. And in order to bring it back into balance, the equivalent P-index ratio risk factor has to be down around 0.6 to 0.7. And I believe some of these are in line with that. Applying manure to the ground does everything that he said he did. One of the problems we have is that manure is not a balanced fertilizer. The phosphorus to nitrogen ratio is quite high. And so when you apply it according to the nitrogen needs of the crop, it ends up applying more phosphorus than what the crop removes. As the phosphorus levels in the soils rise, and that can be done by putting in buffer strips and waterways and keeping the soil on the ground, phosphorus levels in the soil rises. And now we have the portion of the P-index calculation, the water runoff portion and the tile runoff portion, that phosphorus levels increase. And what happens is that first term comes down, this term comes up, and the P-index calculation remains in equilibrium. And in the review that I did of well over 100 manure management plans, P-index calculations, I found that equilibrium tends to level out at about 1.7 when phosphorus levels are quite high in the soil. That's an equilibrium. So you can do all the soil conservation you want, but those other components come up and brings that P-index calculation back up there. And so the answer to this is really don't apply more phosphorus to the ground than what the crop needs. And unfortunately, now we have to take more land up to put the manure on. And I think that would be actually good for the soil. And it would keep the phosphorus levels down low. But we need more land for the amount of hogs that we have. And So I'm really in favor of spreading this stuff out and then supplementing the field with commercial fertilizer, commercial nitrogen, to bring that up to the level where the crop can grow. And I think with the manure application and the commercial nitrogen, I think that they can complement themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
He was our last one,
Okay.
unless Jennifer.
Anything else? Anybody have anything else this morning? Any phone calls, Nancy? Okay. I did receive one note in writing from Paula Shute, and yep, would you like to speak?
I just have some concerns.
All right, come on up. I was going to say, I'll finish while you come up. Your letter, I have made a copy, and Jessica will be sending it with any other documentation to the DNR, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
One thing is we were never notified that this factory was going in. And my name is Paula Shute, by the way, and we just moved here a year ago. And we already have a site that is west of us. And with another site going in on this road, this is the only access we have going in and out of our home. So we are concerned with the road conditions that are going to cause more taxes for me when the road has to be repaired, possibly more auto repair to our home. More flies. I don't know how you're going to get rid of the dead pigs. Are you doing compost? Are they going in a dead box? If it's compost, it's going to cause more rodents. We have coyotes around that area because we've already had problems with it. It's going to cause more of that. That's mainly we just have concerns about our home. Our property value is going to go down. We're just kind of stuck in the middle, living where we're at with two places near that and within a half a mile of our place. So we just have mainly a lot of concerns of, how things are going to be treated and everything. So, and I guess a lot of more says in my letter that I wrote. And so.
And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yep. Just to address, you are rendering, correct? So no composting.
Yes. Thank you.
And then anything else you want any rebuttal or anything, folks? Will this site have the electrostatic
Yes,
fence?
this site will be like all of our new ones
Did
this
it-
year.
Yeah.
We'll have the electrostatic fence on the west side of this building, which helps control odor. And there's a tree planting program that we work through the Iowa Coalition with. We'll be planting trees around this site also. Both those items should help reduce odor.
Yes, Donna?
If you have a tree planting program, did you take points for landscaping?
No, we did not.
So since you didn't, that means the trees can be planted, but you are not required to care for them.
Well, not according to the matrix, we're not required, but we're gonna invest quite a bit of money planting these trees, so we will take care of them.
Okay. Yes, Julie?
I just wanted to be clear that if there was a large rendering business that just went out of business recently, and sometimes it's hard to get rendering places because there's so much to do. They don't always get to places, so I do believe that as an alternative, you did state last week at a similar place that you would be doing some composting or incinerating, or so this will be absolutely rendering, and they must be picked up within 24 hours. So if the dead hogs are not picked up within 24 hours, then you need to be making some calls to get that done.
Thank you, Julie.
One point of clarification, that was on the Bob Shager site, not ours, on the difference.
Right, but I'm just assuming that with the lack of, the possible lack of rendering people that can respond, because, hogs can die daily, so that's just what and the 24-hour period all makes a difference.
Have you guys ever had an issue with getting rendering trucks there within 24 hours? So that rendering business that did go out of business, did you guys use them?
I'm aware of.
We have ours picked up every 30 days.
It is, no, actually,
Okay.
It's not.
I'll let you guys
it's
have.
not funny because you can drive around in this county and see it. So
Okay.
I'm
And
sorry.
smell it.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll be quiet.
That was purely just a curiosity question.
Okay. Any other speakers on your list?
Nope.
Okay, and I made note that I did receive Ms. Schutz's letter, and that will be filed with the rest of the paperwork. Okay.
Did you want us to read that, Paula?
If you want to, that's fine with me.
Yeah, you can go ahead and read that.
Or do you want to read it?
No, you can read
It
it.
might have more of an impact if it's coming from you. Or do you want to read it?
Sure. This was addressed to me. It says, my husband and I moved to our new home in January 2017. We moved here due to losing our home of 12 years to a fire. We have 4 children and 2 grandchildren. We all love to be outdoors playing, enjoying the kids and grandchildren grilling. We also have a horse, many donkeys we love to hang out with. My husband has few cows he likes to do for a hobby. We would love to keep these moments and making new memories at our new home with our family. But it looks like all that will be taken away from us as of another hog factory going in near our home. We did not get any notice of another hog factory going in near our home. We heard through the word of mouth. We already have one less than a half-mile west of our home. We live on a dead-end road. Both hog factories will be on the only access in and out of our home. With 2 hog factories within a half-mile from our home, I believe we cannot enjoy our home, our family time. The smell and flies this is going to bring will be miserable. There are many other issues I could go on and on about. I know you hear the same story every time a hog factory is going in, but I would like to ask you to put yourself in our place and other people of Iowa. Would you want 2 hog factories sitting right next door to you, plus surrounding area? I am not against them, but these big corporations are getting carried away. All they think about is money and do not care what they are doing to the people or the land of Iowa. I am asking you, please take a good look at where these hog factories are going in and maybe consider saying no to them. Sincerely, Paula Schutt, 1768 N Avenue, Iowa Falls, Iowa. You're welcome. Any other speakers this morning? Hearing none, I'll ask that we close the public hearing.
Do we want to hear from Jess before
I was
we?
just, it doesn't.
Then I'll make
either
a
way.
motion to close the public hearing.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Jessica, I'll go ahead and let you give your synopsis and comments on the site.
Okay. So as we stated at the beginning, this is going to be a 2-building site, or it's a proposed 2-building site with 5,000 head of hogs and 2,000 animal units. As far as the matrix went, as always, I did it on my own without looking at the developer matrix, but we did come into agreement, or we were in agreement on all of the points. There was one that I did have a question on, not for them, but to the DNR when we went out and did our site visit, and that was, there is it's like a farm business just southeast of the proposed site, and I was assured that that doesn't count as a commercial property because it's a farm business. I guess I don't know how to word that, but so that didn't count towards the separation distance to a commercial property. Just wanted to make that clear. Other than that, as far as the matrix went, I didn't have any conflicts with them. There were some objections that I received for the site. Let's see, I'm just going to try to find the ones that I marked. There was the distance to the closest residence, and it says that their measurement was within a certain amount of feet of reducing the points, and so we should have an independent surveyor go out. Well, actually, when I did my satellite measuring, I found that it was actually further away than they said, so I don't think there's a need to have an independent surveyor go out and take a look. Let's see what else. The number of cycles of hogs per year, I've been told that industry standard is 2.5 cycles per year, but on the application it says that they're gonna have 5,000 head on the site twice per year, and that's a signed document that if they don't follow, that's legal implications for them, so I don't really have any reason to question them on that. So out of curiosity, where does that industry standard, I know you didn't submit the objections, but do you know, Julie or Donna?
The key word is marketable.
Okay.
That means that the two herds that completely go through the 112 to 115 days, 4 to 5 days cleaning in between. That leaves you for approximately 4 months. With no animals? No. Of course, even if there's like 2 weeks between herds, there's still, I do not believe that a business person would leave his building empty. He's going to use it. He's going to put another herd in. So you have two herds the first year. You've got 3 the second. 3 marketable herds the second. And so it would go. So I believe that there are more than 10,000 hogs going through per year, and which does of course increase the mortality, or the number of dead hogs that need to be gotten rid of. Thank you.
Did you have a comment on that, sir?
Yeah, I'd just be happy to explain live animal production. This site will run as a wean to finish, so it'll be populated with pigs that'll weigh 12 to 14 pounds. It takes 25 to 26 weeks for those pigs to grow to market weight. So that's why the plan is developed with 2 turns a year.
All in, all out, I'm sorry. So it's not all in, all out?
It will be run all in, all out.
So they'll all go out
No,
together at a time?
what all in, all out means is we populate it with a single source of pigs. And so based on whatever sow unit is populating this finisher, that'll take about a week to 10 days to fill it. And then they all don't grow at the same rate. So it'll take about 3 to 4 weeks to market it. Once they're marketed, we take 3 to 4 days to clean it, and then it'll be refilled again. So it'll turn, if it stays on a wean to finish schedule, it'll turn twice a year. And that's just depending on what the market weight is. We have 2 different avenues. We market at 275 and one's 290. So the 290s take about an additional week to 10 days to grow. What you just described was a nursery to finish. And that's when they populate the sow unit, or the finisher, with like a 40 or 50 pound pig. And that's usually about a 20-week turn.
Okay, could you repeat that from what to? Okay,
Nursery.
you're at wean to finish
Okay.
and nursery.
A nursery pig. And that nursery it's a facility that some producers utilize to grow the pig from 12 or 14 pounds when it's weaned off its mother to 40, 50, 60 pounds, whatever they choose. And then it goes to a finisher and it continues to grow to market weight, which is going to be 275 to 290 pounds.
Finisher facility, there's wean to finish, nursery to finish, finisher, right? Is that correct?
No,
Can you-
there's
Because on
there's
many,
wean- there's
excuse
wean-
me.
There's wean to
What?
finish and nursery.
Okay.
Excuse me, on many
Julie.
of these, they say finisher. You
It
need to be
says wean
specific.
to finish
On this
Okay.
particular one.
on
Okay.
all of those that we have filed, ma'am.
I will certainly be checking. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Thank you.
I'm done.
All right.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Yep.
I might be
Makes sense.
write that down later.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Another concern was that some of the fields already received manure from other factory farms. Again, as I said during the last couple of public hearings, that's something to address towards the DNR. They're the ones who regulate that. And something that kind of bothered me, do you mind if I bring that up?
Yeah,
The
sure, whatever. You're the
easement thing?
Mhm.
Okay. So, on the list of objections, it says that there is no information about easements with the fields. There is an easement filed in the application with a legal description of each of the fields. And I just wanted to say it kind of bothers me that that was even in there, because I spent a lot of time looking at these objections. Like, I seriously scour each objection, and I spent a lot of time looking at all of those. But I feel like, I don't know how to
right.
explain
And you
that.
let the person that objected to that know that it was, after your research and due diligence, it was unfounded?
Well, it was like yesterday that I was looking at this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please let them know
Yeah,
that.
I will.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
I know. And then, yeah, again with the easement thing. But, yeah, other than that, they met all the matrix requirements, so I would request that the supervisors, based on the master matrix, send a recommendation to the DNR to approve the application.
Okay. That brings us up to item 5, the recommendation on the animal feeding operation construction permit, Eldridge Finish Farm, WFC Farms LLC, Section 13 of Ellis Township.
I'll move to approve the recommendation on the animal feeding operation construction permit, Eldridge Finisher Farm, WFC Farms LLC, Section 13 of Ellis Township.
I will second it.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I will go ahead and recess us till 12 noon to the budget hearing and compensation board recommendation portion of today's meeting. All right, we'll go ahead and reconvene, and we will go ahead and act on item number 2 on our noon agenda, action on the compensation board recommendation.
I will make a motion to accept the recommendation of the compensation board for increases for elected officials.
Okay.
Can you be more clear on that? The increases submitted?
As presented.
Do you want me to read them all off?
Well, you just said increases. As presented.
Okay, yes, the increases as presented.
Okay.
I will second to go into discussion.
Okay. Would you like to ask Greg to?
That would be part of it, yeah.
Okay. Greg, we'll go ahead and start with you. If you want to come up, just have a seat there. The microphone's right here in the ceiling. No PowerPoint today or anything, Greg. Yep. Perfect. Okay. So if you just want to give a quick rundown of how the compensation board meeting went, and then how you came to the consensus on the proposed increases.
Okay. Yeah, back when we met, talked with all the elected officials, and then the gentleman
Groof.
who I think salary review person is what he is. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Basically, a lot of what we talked about then came down to, well, if we have a hired guy to figure out what's a recommendation, we just went with what he had recommended on that. So, we deliberated and thought different ways as far as having a step plan over years, but then if the board changes, then it's hard to tell who, they could decide then, well, we don't want to do that anymore. So we just decided to stick with the year-to-year thing and go with what the percentages that he recommended with it. I think some of the things that, a couple points that we had talked about was, the attorney was down, and part of that was based on Rick's running platform of he's not going to raise his salary at all. But the thing that we started talking about is that it's significantly lower than others based on, part of it based on him staying at that level, well, then you didn't want to come up with, you know, whether it's a person, if he's next year or the year after or whatever, when somebody else comes on, now all of a sudden you're playing catch up. So did you really gain anything from, you know, keeping it at nothing for that number of years if you catch up all in a hurry? And that was the same with, we talked about that with supervisors as well in the past, said no, didn't want to raise, so then all of a sudden it's like, well, now if we're having to play catch up based on other counties' levels, whatever you want to call it, then now you're playing catch up again. So that was kind of went in with what we talked about and taking the recommendations of Mr. Groove. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that what you need?
Yeah. Thank you for your service, and you know, once we leave, you don't know if you guys are beating each other with tack hammers or if you guys are, you know, hugging and singing Kumbaya. So no matter what you do, thank you for your time and service, because it's tedious. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
Hey, thank you for what you do. I mean, I don't think anybody recognizes the thought and thankfulness and abuse that you could get for the decisions that you make and the support.
Thanks.
One of the things I'd like to point out would be, I agree with the STEP program with the large increases. When we look at a 13.52% increase, 14.18% increase, when you look at dollar amounts going up, you're looking at $7,429, $5,742, $6,584, $8,228 increase, $2,475, $7,701. I mean, for a total increase, we're looking at $43,000 just to elected officials. I would rather prefer a STEP program going 50% of this recommendation, and keep in mind, with Greg here, he'll be on the comp board next year as well, and if we do a 50% increase, the recommendations could come in there as well. Coming in with the high recommendations this time gives us an opening. We can go lower, but we can't go higher. But keep in mind, next year, they'll come in high again as well, I would assume. If these are your recommendations this year, I would assume the same as next year with more of a program. But I'd like to do it in phases over years.
Being the devil's advocate, I would say it looks as though the elected officials have been underpaid over the years, and so the budget's been getting by easy because of that. And sometimes playing catch up when you figure what it would have cost over the years to keep them up there. We've probably, you know, saved. It's the same with the employees. We've increased some of those already, took the jump. So I guess at this point I disagree, but.
I believe that we've done our due diligence. The compensation board has done their research. Paul came in. I do agree that it's going to be harder to play catch up later, and some of the other items that we have here are when you talk about your chief deputy being unable to pay them anymore and get them to where they need to be, that percentage then limits what our chief deputies and other people can make. So I'm more inclined to accept the recommendations that the comp board went ahead and published.
Another question, when the comp board talked to us, they asked us about health insurance and what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're looking at a new health firm, and at this time we don't know what we're doing. And that's part of my 50% increase that I would recommend. If I knew we were paying a lot more for insurance,
right.
And I answered the comp board that way as well. I think you might have asked me that question, Greg.
About insurance for.
Yeah, when you asked us if we would be in favor of these raises this way, and
Right.
I believe the insurance was a factor of my answer.
Well, more the, yeah, I mean, the uncertainty on what it would be.
Right.
As one of the people that went to visit the company that we're looking into, we would be saving money on our insurance. It would be a cost savings to the county. It would be better, better insurance, better coverage for the employees, more or less, but it would end up saving the county tax dollars. It's just my thought.
I have nothing else.
That's all I had.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Go ahead and have a roll call vote on approving the resolution as presented based on the comp board's recommendations. Nancy?
We have the Renee's motion on the accept the recommendation of the comp board for increase as presented for elected officials. You want to vote on that first, please?
Yes, please.
Okay. Renee?
Aye.
Lance?
Nay.
Aye.
BJ?
And then the next item would be the approval of the compensation increase resolution. So Nancy, would I be correct that it would be, we would need to either choose option 1 or option 2, correct? Okay. So,
I would make a motion to approve the resolution stating the accepted increases in salaries as proposed.
do you want option 1?
And I would, yes, I would recommend option 1.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. And option 1 reads, therefore it be resolved that the Hardin County Board of Supervisors adopts the salary recommendations for elected officials for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2018 as recommended by the Hardin County Compensation Board. So I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Okay. Nancy?
Renee?
Aye.
Lance?
Nay.
BJ?
Aye. Okay. The next item we have is a public hearing on the fiscal year 2018-19 budget. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing and
Thanks,
ask.
Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Have you received any written comments, Nancy? Any telephone comments? Okay. Jessica, anything? Okay. Any comments? We have most of the department heads here. Anybody like to comment on the budget? Jody? Okay. Lance?
Oh, I'd just ask the overall layout of it. What kind of numbers, increases, changes that we're having, if they could be presented.
Okay. Jessica, do you want to just give a brief synopsis of?
Here's,
Taylor wants to comment.
this is the overall. This is revenues compared to what we budgeted last year. And this is re-estimated.
The state website was uncooperative this
And
morning.
this is
so-
expenditures compared to what we budgeted and what were actual, or re-estimated, not actual.
All right. So general basic, the dollars levied on property taxes, $3,259,300, and that's at $3.50 for the levy rate. Last year's levy rate for the same, and dollars, because I know that's what Lance is asking.
$3,154,219 at $3.50. Which is an increase of $105,081 for the general fund. Pioneer Cemetery levy rate. Decreased 62 thousandths of a cent, so it's basically the same to people and the dollars levied are the same. General supplemental, which is your health insurance, your benefits, elections. I'm forgetting some things off the top of my head, I apologize, but it was $2.58, and the dollars levied was $2,236,245.
Can you repeat that again?
$2,236,245. It is now $2,473,340. The levy rate is 274. Sorry, that's backwards. It decreased. It's opposite what I just told you. No. Stop. Scratch all that. I apologize. I'm not normally this chaotic, and everyone who works with me knows that I'm not that chaotic. The problem was this didn't print on the printer upstairs. The state website stalled out, and I was using figures from 2 years ago instead of last year. Let's start over, and let's get this right, so I don't give misinformation. How about I just tell you the increase or decrease if the
Yeah,
tax
that's-
levies stay
Sure.
the same?
Yeah.
Thanks, appreciate that.
Did you use the same levies as we did last year then? Just the dollar amount would be sufficient to me. I mean, the total.
So the dollars levied in the general are $3,259,300.
Mhm.
That is an increase over last year of $105,081. Is that what I gave you before?
Yes.
Yep.
So I started off on the right key. It's $3.50. General supplemental. General supplemental. Levy rate is increasing from $2.74 to $2.95. And the dollars will be an increase of $275,386. Debt service. Was at 50 cents. It is now at 16 cents per levy rate per thousand. And I'd like to comment on that later if I can. I just want to give you the figures first. That's a decrease of $317,820.
370, what?
317,820. And then rural services basic. Was 324 for levy rate. It now is 329 for levy rate. The dollars asked. $88,095 more. Overall, countywide levy rate, including rural services, went from 1043 to 1032. And overall county rate, so that would be for the rural, for the urban, went from $7.18 to $7.03. To comment on that, and I apologize again that this took forever, but to comment on that, we refinanced last year and I paid $2 million early on 2 of our urban renewal TIF areas, both Garden Wind Farm and the Pine Lakes Corn Processors. In paying that early, that allowed me to release most of that TIF back into valuation reports. When your value increases, your levy rates can decrease and produce the same amount of dollars. So overall, the value in the county increased by releasing those TIFs. Countywide rates increased to the point where our general fund at $3.50 looked rather healthy, and was able to encompass a lot more expenditures than we had before. For example, the increase in salaries that you just approved, those were all included in that with no cuts in budgets coming in. All county departmental budgets that were submitted, there were no slashes across the table that were made to put all of this budget together to make that levy rate fit. Everything worked, and I did budget the transfer from general fund to secondary roads, which hasn't been done now for, I believe, 4 years. I think it's 4 years that we have not done that, and now it will be entirely implemented back in at 100%. There's also money from the general fund being moved to the general supplemental fund to offset some of the benefits and expenditures that are out of there, which, like I said again, is a sign of a healthy general fund, and we haven't had that for a long time. Your debt service levy went down $18,000 basically, 50 cents to 16 cents. That's noticeable in and of itself, due simply to the fact that we paid off the jail and we refinanced, and we only have 1 bond issuance now that's not paid by, that's paid by debt service. The rest, the other 2 are TIF and urban renewal generated. So when you look at this overall, this was a really decent budget, but I did increase the general supplemental to offset that huge tax decrease in the debt service for one reason and one reason only. When you have debt service come along like this and then it suddenly takes a wild swing down, if that tax benefit were to be passed on to people, and then the next year you issue debt again, it would go right back up. And people would be really joyous one year and really, really angry the next year. And so the best place to put that, the place that it is most helpful and useful, is the general supplemental fund. And therefore, there was some offsetting in the general supplemental fund. That's why you see it increase slightly, is to use some of the savings from debt service to offset that. Now, we can decrease general supplemental going forward should you issue debt. It's not like you're going to issue debt and then tax on top of that for people. It's in there, we can reduce that. We don't have to do as much out of that fund as what we planned with this budget. Rural services going up only a nickel is attributable not just to the keeping expenditures low, but also with the added valuation to the county. And I would like to say too, the reason that this wall wasn't put together formally and pretty the way that we've done it in the past is because last week I had to make a valuation change with the Department of Management, which if you know anything about valuations, those are done in December, finalized January 1, and then everybody does their budgets according to them, and you cannot make changes this late in the game. The problem is there was a utility that merged with another utility, and it got reported under both entities instead of being merged, and it was about $600,000 difference to the county level, and that made a big enough difference that the Department of Management required me to make a change. So it affected some taxing entities. They were all notified by letter, and then I had to readjust ours. So all the figures that I had that we had made work earlier on, things that we had approved, things that we had budgeted, those all sort of, I don't want to say went out the window, but we had to start and finish it again. All of them have to stay at the same as what we published or less. So we're held to that. That's what we're doing, is the tax rate, levy rates that were published or less. And I'm sorry, the tax dollars that were published or less. The tax levy rates can change slightly to make that accommodation, but the dollars that you published that you were going to tax, you were held to those no matter what the valuation does. So we're held to the dollars we published. Those didn't change. Tax levy rates slightly increased, decreased, but overall what I had published in the paper to what came into here today is exact by the penny.
Okay. Can you tell us that in detail?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Thank you.
I like things formally presented,
Yeah.
and this doesn't cut it for me.
I think another issue is we were in the middle of the computer change too.
Yes, we were.
And then to go along with that, I think the auditor, our external auditors report on our fiscal practices, you know, the people, the process, and the actual dollars and cents. We got a really good report from them that our practices are very good. I think they wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't find something to some constructive criticism, but overall, for them to, you know, really give us a very clean bill of health is very promising as well. So, you know, we very conservative still, but we made sure that we followed those, you know, best practices and general guidelines that the accounting firm recommends. And so not take that advice, to make sure that people and processes are done properly would be, you know, negligent in our duty, in our duty. So, okay. Any other comments from department heads with that? Any of that information being presented? Renee? Lance,
I don't
anything
have
else?
any.
No, we went through it pretty well. I think you covered everything. I think you did a nice job, even though you thought your papers were scattered. You still got through it nice and clean and clear.
I do want to say again, I couldn't be more happy on the debt service levy being able to be reduced and us only asking $165,000 for debt service. That's pretty cool, and it doesn't happen overnight. And the reason it happened was because you did refinance and restructure debt and pay early last year. And that also doesn't happen overnight. That takes planning, and that takes years of working towards it. And I know when I came into office, I started collecting on the TIP projects, knowing I wanted to refinance when the date came to make it callable. And once that date came, it all rolled into one. And this is sort of like the proof is in the pudding. I saw that this was going to happen. I worked towards it, and I made it happen. And I'm pretty stoked about that one itself. So, and it showed because, like I said, the valuation for the general fund, it went up tremendously, enough to make our general fund what I consider healthy again, where I'm not telling people to cut budgets.
Another thing to point out is our capital projects fund that used to be very large is now small. That comes in from the lost funds. We're now budgeting through the general basic, correct?
Right.
Which,
because your general basic can handle some of that load now.
from what I remember, is probably pushing about $640,000 in capital or what used to be capital projects for this year.
I don't remember how much, but we slashed all of them.
So, I mean, there's there's quite a bit of money
When I
being
say slashed, I don't mean like we said you're not gonna
Right.
spend it. We just shifted from capital projects to.
general,
General.
which I believe 100,000 went into ours, 200 into 225 into Jody's, 340 into Dave's, if I remember
Yes.
if that number was right. I mean, there's quite a bit of numbers that are being taxed out of the general basic, and it went up $105,000.
Cindy, anything from you? Lynn? Wes?
No, I talked, you said the amount in here, in your, because you didn't mention mental health fund.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I should have told you that levy because it is a levy. It's just one that we don't have any choice on, so I didn't say yay or nay on it. I apologize. So the mental fund levy was last year 41 cents per thousand, and this year the region has asked for $382,417, so the levy rate is 40 cents. It's actually a decrease in the levy rate.
Increase in dollars, decrease in levy.
Did you say 382?
I have 382,
Because I have
417.
610, 533 for a dollar amount. For the budget amount?
Mhm.
Is that what you have for budget amount? I
That's
wonder-
what I have for tax askings. On,
Does that increase the amount we have to put in for the transfer to the region? Or would that be something different?
if that's fund balance, that wouldn't be in here. Cause this is just tax askings, like new tax dollars.
Okay, but for expenditure, what did you have for an expenditure for part 60? So I just want to make sure it's.
You're at service area 4, correct?
Yeah.
Your budgeted expenditures are $678,025.
I had 610, 533, but maybe.
Right, that's out of your fund, and then there's 7,269 out of supplemental and 6,223 out of general. And those are under county provided services, that those are budgeted with general and supplemental. So 610,533 is correct for your fund.
Okay.
And then altogether makes 678,025.
I'll probably include maybe the friendship club. No. That's, we can, I just wanted to make sure that we were okay with the total
Yeah.
amount. We can talk about it.
Yep.
Mike, did you have anything? Megan? Taylor? Jody? No? Okay. Any other comments? Greg? You're the member of the public here. Yeah. Okay. With that being said, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Motion is second. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
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 Next we have is the adoption of the fiscal year 2018-19 budget.
I'll make a motion to adopt the fiscal year 2018-19 budget.
I will second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Renee?
Aye.
Lance?
Aye.
BJ?
Aye. It is approved. Item number 6, I'll ask for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.